So we're going to go through chapter 10 to date 1 notes. Okay, if you take a look on the backside, there's only 4 examples we got to do. I've got to go through and walk through these basic formulas that we're going to be dealing with. So as we take a look, again, we're dealing with the parabola. We're going to find the equation of a parabola, goal number 1. Goal number 2, we're going to graph these guys. And then goal number 3, we're going to work through parabolas that have vertexes H and K. So that's the first thing that you should write down. When you're looking at these parabolas, we're going to be dealing with a vertex. You're going to be dealing with a vertex H and K. Just like that, H and K. H is always with X and K is always with Y. Okay, so H is always with X, K is always with Y because H is the X value and K is the Y value. Well, by definition, it says a parabola is a collection of all the points in a plane that are the same distance from a fixed point called the focus, this guy, and a fixed line called the directrix. The directrix is a line that goes right behind the parabola. Okay, so here's your vertex, here's your focus, and here's your directrix. Now, any point on this guy, like this guy right here, if I drew a straight line across or down to the focus that has a distance, well, that distance would be the same if I drew a straight line back to the directrix. And that works for any point. If I grab a point down here and drew a line to the focus and a point back here, that'd be the same distance. Okay? All right. Now, if we take a look at the first equation, you'll see that these guys open up, down, left, and right. The first one I have here is opening to the right. And the formula we're going to have is y minus k squared and equals 4a times x minus h. So y minus k squared equals 4a and then x minus h. So we know h and k is our vertex. And when we grab those values, we always say opposite of what you see in parentheses. So if you see an x plus 2, it's really a minus 2. Or if you see x minus 2, it's really a plus 2. It's always opposite of what you see in parentheses. That's been like that since, I don't know when, the beginning of chapter 1. Okay? Now in this formula, you'll also see an a value. And an a value is the distance from two things. From the vertex to your focus and your vertex to the directrix. Okay, so again, A is a distance. So A is a distance from the vertex to your focus and vertex to your directrix. Because it's a distance, I always say A is going to be positive. So if you ever get an A value that's negative, just know again, technically it's a positive value. Okay? All right. Is this guy a function? If it opens left to right, why not? Doesn't pass the vertical line test. Every x should only have one y, or every person should only have one birthday. There's some dirty dog in here who has 2 birthdays. John has 2 birthdays. So one of the things to remind yourself is if the y's are squared, that means there's 2 y's. There's 2 birthdays for that guy. This is not a function. That means it opens left or right. It doesn't pass the vertical line test. So when I look at this guy, the one that opens left, you'll see the equation is identical. Y minus x quantity squared equals 4a times the quantity x minus h. But the little subtle difference is it's negative in front of the 4a. Okay, that's the only subtle difference. The formula is identical except for the negative. Okay? So, one way to remember this, I always remember smiley face, frowny face, right? Positive people smile, negative people frown. Well, in this case, if it opens to the right, it's positive, and it opens to the left, it's negative. So I always say right-handed people are positive people, and left-handed people are negative people. And I take that based on my wife is a lefty, and she's very negative, and I'm a righty, and I'm very positive. So I just go by that. Now, that only works if we don't have any lefties in here. Do we have any lefties in here? Any lefties? We have no lefties in here? So nobody's offended. We can use that, and nobody's going to be mad at me. All right, so again, if you're right-handed, you're positive, it opens to the right. If it's a negative, it opens to the left, because negative. Left-handed people are negative. All right, let's do the up and down ones. If it goes up and down, the x's are now squared. So it's going to be x minus h squared, and that equals 4a times the quantity y minus k. And if it opens down, the formula is identical. X minus h squared equals 4a y minus k, except if it opens down, it's a frowny face, and it has to be what? Negative. This guy right here is a negative 4a. Okay? And then just to make sure you understand what the a value is, guys, a is the vertex to your focus distance, so this would be a. In vertex to your directrix, that distance a. Okay, so same thing here. This guy, that's a, and this guy is a. Any questions so far? Give me a thumb. Where are we at? Thumbs up, thumbs down, the formula. Kind of got to see it in place here. All right. Last thing I want to talk about is sometimes your vertex is at the origin, 0, 0. So if that happens, it just makes your formula look a little different, but don't freak out. You would have a h and k value. H and k would be 0. And what happens if you plug in 0 here? What's y minus 0? What's y minus 0? Y, and then just squared. So if you don't see a quantity there with the y, then you know the k value is 0. And then you'll see like 4a, and then x minus 0 is just x. Okay? So if you don't see quantities there, know that it's 0. So this guy would be y squared equals negative 4ax, like that. Okay? And then last but not least, if it's opening up, this guy would be squared, x would be squared. If the h value was 0, x minus 0 is just x and then squared, equals 4a, y minus 0 would be y. So again, if you don't see parentheses, you got to know that the h or k value is 0. And that one would be x squared equals negative 4ay. Okay. Guys have any questions? Anything else you want to ask? Anything else? Anything else you want to ask? Anything else? Gabe.
What's the lattice of a parabola?
Thank you for asking that, Gabe. That's funny that you asked that. Okay. Now, the lattice of a parabola is really a HPC question. They'll ask you to come up with 2 points on the parabola using the lattice. And I call it the lattice because the full name is the lattice rectum. And I really don't want to say lattice rectum all the time, okay, for obvious reasons. So I'm going to call it the lattice, and I'm not going to say rectum anymore, okay? The lattice rectum goes through the focus. It intersects your parabola in 2 spots. And the lattice is parallel with the directrix. And that's one way to come up with 2 points on your graph. So this guy is called the lattice. Okay, this is something that if you ever saw that on a worksheet or something, you would omit that. I believe I've gone through the worksheet and have omitted it, but just in case you see lattice, understand that we don't We don't need that. Don't worry about it. Okay? That's more of an HPC thing. Okay? All right, so let's flip this over and let's get into graphing these guys. So here we go. So example 1 asks us to sketch a graph and write an equation for each parabola with the given information. And it says I got a vertex at 0, 0 and a focus at negative 3, 0. Okay, so the first thing I do is I'm a visual person, and you guys are too, I bet. Let's go ahead and put this on our graph paper. So vertex is 0, 0. I'm going to go ahead and graph that and put a little V there. On a quiz or test, I want you to graph these points and then put the label of V or F. And then negative 3, 0. Which way is negative 3, 0? To the left, to the left. 1, 2, 3, and I put a little F there. Okay. Now, with that information, bless you. With that information, I know which way this thing is going. Which way is this thing going if my vertex is on the right and the focus is on the left? And you're saying, John? Yeah, it's going left. So the vertex is here going around your focus. Now, I'm not asking you guys to come up with any points there, okay? But if you needed to, you could use that lattice to do that, and we don't do that in this class. Okay? Now, you know the vertex, you know your focus, you know which direction it's going. And here's a little trick. I always think of the F as Fruit Loops. And this is my bowl in the morning, right? And I want my Fruit Loops in the bowl, my cereal bowl. All right, so that kind of gives you the idea of what it looks like in a silly way, right? All right, well, I know this is a distance that I care about. From my vertex to my focus is my A value. And how far is my vertex and focus? This is little a. That's 3. Okay, so I know A is 3. And now all I got to do is count back the other way, 1, 2, 3, to come up with this directrix. The directrix I usually make is a dotted or dashed line. And I do want you to label that. So what's the directrix here? X or Y equals, crosses the x-axis, it's vertical. X equals 3. It goes right through that. Okay. So I've got my focus, I got my vertex, I got my directrix. The last thing they want us to do is write the equation. Because it opens left, it's not a function, right? Doesn't pass the vertical line test. So are the x's squared or the y squared? The y's are squared. Very good. So this is a y minus k, 4a, and then x minus h. And then is it positive or negative if it opens left? This is a negative in front. Very good. All right, so again, this is my h and k, and we have our a value. And now it's just pluggy chuggy. We plug in our h and k, we plug in our a. I've got y minus 0, which we know is y squared. A, what's a? What do we have for a? 3. So negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. And then we have x minus h, which is 0. X minus 0 is just x. So this is the equation I'd be looking for on a quiz or test.
Would we put in 3 for x or no?
Nope. Your a value is 3.
Because of the x equals
3. X, no, that's that's your directrix.
3. Okay, that's separate from it.
Right. Yep. That's a good question. The lattice is actually going through the focus at x equals negative 3, and that's how you would find those special points there, those lattice points. We would plug in negative 3 here and then solve it, but we don't. It's not something I ask you to do. Okay. Now, yep. All right. Questions on example 1, y'all? All right. So this is, again, guys, if you look at your worksheet, very similar. So here we go. I got example 2. I got 0, 0. So let's go ahead and graph that guy. 0, 0 is right on the origin right there. And then they gave me the directrix, which is y equals -5. So we know that's a line. Is that a vertical line or horizontal line? YZ, horizontal line, right? This is a y equals, goes across the y, hits only the y-axis. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so good job. So that's a y equals -5 line. And I got to come up with the focus now. Well, for me to come up with the focus, I need to know what value. What value do you need? Gabe? What's 5? Yeah, the focus is going to be a 5. How do you know that? Opposite of what's in the parentheses. I agree with you. It's going to be 5.
It's like mirrored over the x.
Yeah, so... Yeah, this is the same distance. So if you look, this represents A, right? That distance from the vertex to your directrix is 5, and that's your distance from your vertex to your focus. So I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's your focus. And you should be able to label that guy. Where is that guy? Is that 0, 5 or 5, 0? 0, 5. And then again, here we go. I'm not asking you to come up with any points on the parabola. Just be able to graph it. Okay? Again, here's the visual. Okay? Here's the silly visual. Okay? The directrix represents my picnic table or my table at home, my breakfast table. Okay? The bowl is my cereal bowl, and my Fruit Loops or focus, right, are inside of the bowl. Some of the problems that we'll see on homework and quizzes and stuff is people will put the focus on the outside of the bowl, right? Some people draw the directrix that goes right through the bowl, okay? I should have a table, I should have a bowl sitting on the table or hovering over it, and then my Fruit Loops are in the bowl. That's kind of the idea. If I look back at example 1, and turn this around this way, kind of gives you the same visual, right? I know that's a silly example, but maybe it'll help somebody visualize it better, okay? All right, so I got this thing graphed. Last thing, come up with the equation. It's a smiley face. Are the x's squared or the y squared? If it's a function. X's. So I got this guy. Notice the h is with the x, the k is with the y. And again, it's smiley face, so this is a positive 4a this time. And now let's just plug those numbers in, right? So I have x minus 0. Again, my h and k is my vertex. H and k, put them right there. Okay, so I've got x minus 0 is just x squared. A, what's A? 5. So 4 times 5, simplify that to 20. And then we have y minus k, which is 0. So that's just 20y on that side. So final answer, I get x squared equals 20y for my equation that we're using. Okay, so not too bad. Give me a thumb. Where are we at, guys? Thumbs up, thumbs down, sideways. Not too bad. Okay. Questions? All right, we got 2 more examples. So here we go. Now my vertex is moving. Now we're working on goal number 3, where my vertex is at a different value. So my vertex is 2, 3. Remember, that's h and k. So I'm going to graph over 1, 2, up 1, 2, 3. There's my vertex. They gave me my focus, so I'm going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and up 3. And now this is all the information I need to know about my parabola. I know which way this thing's going. Which way is this thing going?
Right.
Who says that? Cam says going to the right. Why is it going to the right? Yeah, the Fruit Loops have to be in the bowl. Very good. Your focus is in the bowl. Okay, just give me a rough sketch of that. Doesn't have to be super accurate, but nice little parabola around that focus. Okay, and I should know where my directrix is. Where is my directrix? And how do you find that? Any ideas? Any ideas where the directrix is? Maddie, what do you got? -3. So what's the A? So my question would be, what's the A value? How far is the vertex to your focus? How far is that's 3. Very good. Okay, so that's a little A. So count back that same distance. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and that gives me a line here. Maddie, what's this line? Yeah, this is x equals -1. Very good. Perfect. Okay. So again, that value A is my vertex to my focus and vertex back to the directrix. Remember, the directrix is your table. Sometimes I'll have people draw the directrix going through the graph, and that's not right because that's something we learned earlier in chapter 3. That's your axis of symmetry, right? So I don't want axis of symmetry. I don't want the graph getting cut in half. I want that bowl in the table behind it. Okay? All right. So function out of function. Are my x's squared or my y squared? My y's are, this is not a function, right? So I have 2 y's. So this is the y minus k squared. It's opening to the right. We said positive people smile and they're right-handed. So this is a positive 4a, x minus h. Okay? Now, one of the things that people get mixed up on is your h and k value. Okay? When you grab k, make sure you grab the second number, the 3. And when you grab h, make sure you grab the first number. So y minus k is y minus what? 3. Awesome. A, 4 times 3 is 12. And then x minus h, what's h? What is it? So x minus 2, very good. So there's my equation. I've got y minus 3 quantity squared equals 12, and then times the quantity x minus 2. Okay? So now understand where we're going. We're going to put this all together. If they give you information, you should be able to come up with the equation. And now we got to go backwards. They're going to give you the equation, and we want to put this stuff together. Okay? So what I want you to do is look at number 4 and pick out the h and k, and I want you to find the a value. Now, reminder, when we're doing number 4 over here, look at this. Remember, when you take your h, it's with the x, and the k is with the y, and it's opposite of what you see. The other thing is, how do you, if this is 12, and the a value is 3, what do you have to do with this 12 to get 3? What do you got to do with this number right here? Divide by what? By 4. So whatever that number is, divide by 4. That's going to help you find your a value. Because the number here represents 4a. So divide by 4. Okay? So take a second with your buddy and figure out what your h and k value is and what your a value is. And then you should know if this opens up, down, left, or right. Okay? So take 1 second. Do not draw yet, because I had some people drawing it the wrong way. They had it mixed up. So take a second. Let's find out our vertex. So pick out your vertex. Find your a value. And then we're going to find our focus and our directrix. So take a second. And you should also know which way it's going. So talk to your buddy and say, hey, buddy. Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy, what'd you get?
Alright, so
Don't draw yet, though.
this
Actually,
one's a K, right?
Opposite of what you see in front of you. All right. So let's see if you get what I got. Okay, Nicole, vertex, what'd you have, girl? -2, 1. Remember, H is with X, K is with Y, and it's opposite of what you see. So -2, 1, awesome. I'm going to count over 1, 2, up 1. Right there's my vertex. A, what's A? What's A? 4, whatever that number is right here. This 16, right? I'm going to set 4A equal to 16. And then I'm going to divide by 4. And we get A is 4. Perfect. Now, you have to know which way this thing's going. And that's based on what's squared and if it's positive or negative. If the x's are squared, it's a function. Right? And you have to know, is it positive or negative? Smiley face, frowny face. 16, is that positive or negative? Smiley face, frowny face. What do you guys say? Smiley face. 16 is a positive number. It's a smiley face. All right, so I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's my focus. So that's my A value there. Okay? Then I'm going to count back 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is my directrix. Okay? My bowl, again, goes around my Fruit Loops, around my focus. And now I have this thing graphed. Quiz or test, you have to come up with the focus and the directrix. So I got to figure out what's this coordinate point. That's over 2, so -2, and up how many? Up 5. And if you think about it, my A value was 4. 1 plus 4 is 5, so it makes sense, right? All right, here's my vertex. I counted back, and I have my horizontal line. That's a y equals. It crosses the y-axis. Okay, and where does it cross? Y equals -3. I have my vertex. I got my focus, my directrix. I have a rough sketch of what that graph would look like. Boom, done. And if you guys look at your worksheet, you'll see very similar to that now. Okay? You guys have any questions for me? All right, so if we look at the front, our goals for today. Find the equation of a parabola. Easy peasy. Goal number 2, graph parabolas. We know how to do that. The formula tells you which way it's going, right? And then work with parabolas with vertex H and K. That's when it starts moving around. H is always with X, K is always with Y. And when you grab those from the equation, it's opposite of what you see. Okay? All right, so homework tonight, you guys have some matching, 13 through 20. And then you have some graphing to do.